So I played Bloodborne on PC. Sorta. Graceborne is a mod that completely overhauls Elden Ring to look and feel a lot more like Bloodborne. New armor, weapons, mechanics, and reskinned bosses to all have that beautiful aesthetic we know and love. With a bunch of new weapons to try out, I wanted to challenge myself to use a different weapon per remembrance boss. Never has a pool of weapons wowed me more than these ones. Some of these weapons are ripped straight out of Bloodborne and others are created for the mod. So join me in my first playthrough of Graceborne, and if you want to experience the mod for yourself, there will be a link in the description. Also, one last thing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are nearing 10,000 subscribers. It's actually crazy to think about, and I am so thankful for each and every one of you guys. It is a lot to ask, but if you haven't already, consider subscribing so we can really break the goal. I know it's been a minute since my last video, but to celebrate nearing this milestone, I will do a challenge run of whatever you guys want. Just leave a comment suggesting something, and the top comment will determine my next video. Long intro, I know, now back to the video. The mod did a complete overhaul of all the starting classes. Most offer unique weapons and armor sets, but I decided to go with the most true to form class, the Yharnam Hunter. I think I'm gonna go with the Yharnam Hunter, who comes with the axe right here. I think that'll be kind of cool. Look at the fit. The fit is awesome. Here, we'll say this. You know what? I'll probably make this a video. 100 likes, and I do a waste run, and we see if I can beat the game. Starting the game armed with a pistol and an axe, I begin in the Nightmare Chapel. The grafted scion is replaced with a bloodletting knight who promptly ran my shit. Waking up in the lands between, this would be my first time seeing the graphical overhaul. Oh, look at this. This is so cool. My goodness, that's the archery right there. Stopping in the Cathedral of LA, this is where you can find Kale.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Also here is the vendor that sells all the weapons and armor sets added with the mod. We will be making frequent stops here to change out our gear throughout the run. First order of business was to talk to Melina, who offered to become my girlfriend and even gave me a magic pony. Pretty sweet deal if you ask me. Now for the boring part. It was time to collect a bunch of stuff. Heading south, I grabbed the charged attack talisman and tear, one half of the Decepticon medallion and the physic vial, and a blood tear from the church. In the Weeping Peninsula, I stopped for 3 more blood tears and then killed a tree for the opaline bubble tear. Returning to the cathedral, I spoke to Ronnie to begin her quest.
We'll close it.
All the weapons in the mod require somber smithing stones, or in this case, tear stones, to be upgraded. Grabbing a somber 1 from the Scarab Beetle by the Artist Shack and a somber 2 from progressing the Blythe quest, I got my axe to +2. Before taking on the first boss, I made a quick stop in Florida to get the other half of the Decepticon medallion and Radagon's singular ball. With most setup out of the way, it was time for our first boss. Alright, Margit, let's see what you look like. This should be really cool. I'm excited to see what he looks like. Can't really see here. He's very golden. Whoa. Yeah, okay.
By the flame of ambition.
That is awesome. Wow. My gosh. Oh yeah.
Let it be Margit the Fell.
This is one of the coolest looking boss reskins I have ever seen. His unwavering aura made me forget how to play the game. My first attempt went pretty bad, and I was getting used to the dodge step and parry timings. Okay, that was a warm-up try. Warm-up. After a swift death, my second attempt went far better. One thing I found interesting in this run is the parry timings. To me, they feel far slower than the base game, as if I were to use a shield. I believe this is because of the actual gun animation being a bit wonky and sometimes not actually shooting or taking too long. Margit, or Nadar, requires 3 parries to stagger, and I managed to get 1 stagger off, which opened up the opportunity for a visceral attack. Man, does that feel good. Sadly, after that, I ran out of ammo and had to resort to just two-handing a big axe, which I mean, it's kind of just as fun, not really a big problem to me. The axe is a really fun weapon. I believe it shares the same moveset as the halberd, albeit altered to have some trick weapon mechanic. The heavy attack was a bit punishable and I could use it, but at the risk of taking a hit in return. In my opinion, the single-handed axe felt far better as it was faster, however it did do less damage, so I just stuck to two-handing. Double gripping the shaft is always the right move, as everyone knows. The mod does not change any boss attacks, so most everything was the same, and as long as I played semi-decent, I would be okay. No major missteps happened, and with 1 final stagger, I was able to knock Nadar to his knees before delivering the final blow. Alright. Good tries, not bad. There we go. Mr. Night Warden Nadar is down. I like how they still have the gold there. Should have been red. Oh, nice. And we got a talisman, so that's all still the same. With Nadar defeated, I gained entry to Stormvale Castle, which didn't really get changed much. Speaking to Gastok, I had him open the gates and then brutally murdered him because he looked at me funny. Once inside, I kinda just ran past everything and made it to the fog gate before our next boss. Entering the boss, I expected a monumental enemy feared throughout the Land of Nightmares. Instead, we got Swine Lord Porcus. Honestly, this is about as fitting a name you can get for someone like Godric. It's crazy, everyone knows that Godric is by far the easiest remembrance boss, yet I can still find ways to get it twisted. Porkchop here didn't like me making fun of his name and had something to say about it. However, on my second attempt, I stood on business and learn to fight back. Contrary to what I said previously, the axe is a really good weapon in its normal form as well. Even if it does a little bit less damage, it is faster and just feels smoother overall. Its heavy attacks do a good amount of poise, so I try to get those in where I could. I don't think Porky can be parried, but I kept the gun out the whole time because frankly, who doesn't want to stay strapped? After transitioning to phase 2, Piggy makes the smart decision to stand still and breathe fire everywhere. Except this just gives me time to get enough damage in to stagger him and to get a visceral in for big damage. Before long, Porky becomes bacon and cooked up ready to eat. Although I wouldn't advise consuming this, it probably has a few fingers in it.
And one day,
Nice.
we'll
There we go.
return together to
Another
our home,
second try?
bathed in
Kind of goofed there at
rays of
the first one.
gold.
With each remembrance comes a weapon change, so I returned to the cathedral to find a new weapon. One specifically caught my eye, and I chose to run with the man catcher because who doesn't like catching men? Behind Stormvale is the Nightmare of Liurnia, home to the School of Mensis, a nightmare indeed. Nobody likes books in school. In Liurnia, I head to EG, who sells unlimited Tearstone 1 and 2s as well as some 3s and 4s. This allows me to upgrade the man catcher to +4 for the ensuing area. Before entering Hogwarts, I must find the academy key located behind the big dragon, yet another victim of invasive species. Running through the academy, I took a wrong turn and wound up at the bottom of the wheel with a virgin abductor. It found me pure and innocent, so it ate me and I woke up in Volcano Manor. I don't know why I'm here, but please get me out. Returning to the academy, I made it just in time for class, led by Professor Cat. He's a cat, not a dog. Even after fighting him like 5 times, I still get clipped pretty hard, but the man catcher has innate bleed, and with some pretty solid damage, the red kitty went down quick and easy. Entering the fight with Renala, the cutscene gave me a glimpse of what I was in for.
Oh my god. That's hideous. What is that?
Oh wow, the Queen of Entrails. What a name. In her first phase, I beat up on her weird slug things until she gets knocked down to the ground. Pretty standard and very normal thing to do. Sadly, I don't have enough damage to one-cycle her, but the bleed puts in overtime, and after she falls down a second time, I can get her to a second phase. Once again, the fight is the same as before, only this time she looks a lot cooler. As for my average Renala experience, all she does is stall, and a lot of this fight is spent running around waiting for an opportunity to attack. With the amount of magic she does, it's actually insane how many times you have to run around. Like, I spend more of this fight running than I do actually swinging my weapon. But finally, after one too many dragons, the Queen of Entrails goes down, and I gain the ability to respec for all my future weapon choices.
Yeah, let's go. First try. Renala just always runs away, man. It's so annoying. Alright. That was not bad at all.
Another remembrance down means another weapon to change. This time, I decided to try out the Quilled Gauntlets. The gauntlets are an original weapon made for this mod and are definitely some of my favorites. These are claws with innate bleed buildup as well as a really cool Ash of War that has you charge at the enemy and swing wildly. They almost always require to be two-handed to make work well, as the single claw is far too slow. Luckily for me, Radahn can't be parried, so two-handing would be very easily doable. Returning to Florida, I stop and take out the big sleeping dragon for some easy runes. Before heading to Redmane Castle, I instead take the Dectus lift up to Altus Plateau to fully skip the quest and be able to begin the Radahn fight. One last stop before the fight, as the gauntlets are claw weapons that benefit greatly from successive attacks, I return to Liurnia to kill a Rot Knight for the Winged Sword insignia, and with that, I am ready to face Radahn. This fight was one for the ages, except not really, because I struggled way too hard. For starters, I couldn't turn around and skip the arrow phase because the torrent whistle animation was replaced with a finger snap that is far too slow to be able to consistently run out in time. This meant that I would have to deal with the arrows, which isn't really a problem, it just drags on the fight, a little bit too long in my opinion. Secondly, the quick step animation feels like it definitely doesn't fit with attacks like these that are much wider and have larger hit areas, so sometimes I would get hit and die because I messed up my dodge. That is just a very in-depth way of saying skill issue, but alas. Getting through Radahn's first phase was relatively simple. Most attacks were easily dodged, and there were some large attack windows such as when he slams his swords into the ground to cover them with rocks. Standing behind him would allow for good damage, and paired with bleed would almost immediately deplete his health bar. It was not until phase 2 where things began to shift. Also, shout out to whoever said that the Radahn meteor comes flying in from whichever way you are looking. That has effectively changed the game. It actually made it so much easier to dodge and get out of the way. His second phase was pretty much the same, except this time I would have to watch out for his rock sling and some more sporadic attacks. I really like the Quilled Gauntlets. They are really fluid and fun to use. Most of this fight has me running around waiting for opportunities to sit by Leonard to get damage in. I have definitely gotten better at Radahn over time, but man is he still a really tough boss. I do kind of wish that he was also reskinned. That is now 2 major bosses missing a really cool redesign. I guess this mod is still in alpha, so I won't be surprised if there would be one in the future, but for now we just have to wait. After one too many tries, I got a solid attempt where things were actually looking up for me. Soon enough, Radahn fell victim to some Wolverine-sized attacks, marking my 3rd remembrance down.
Shit. Let's go! Oh my god! Look at my health! Oh my god! Wow! Wow! Let's go! Oh my god! Dude! My heart!
Oh my goodness! I got so lucky there. The next weapon I decided to use was the Church Cane. I believe this weapon is in Bloodborne, however it is unwieldable and instead a weapon that some of the church enemies use. It's basically just a long stick. It does come with the Wild Strike's Ash of War, which would come in very handy. With Morgott next in line, I stopped in Murkwater Cave to kill the best bald man, Pitches. He sells Margit Shackle, for which I would use in the fight as I had a
goddamn plan.
Returning to Altus, or in this case the Nightmare Plateau, I went to the tunnels to find the Crystallian Duo. They dropped the Somber Bell Bearing 2, which would allow for unlimited upgrades to +4. With a new upgraded weapon, it was time to head into the capital. Before I could, I would have to take on the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Without much struggle or resistance, he went down and now the capital was open. One last stop I forgot about. I went to the Lux Ruins to kill demi-human Queen Gilliga. She protects a chest that contains the Ritual Sword Talisman, a wonderful talisman that will be very good throughout this run. Making my way through the capital, I stopped right before the Godfrey to get the Ritual Shield Talisman, which synergizes greatly with the sword. Climbing up the branches, I made it to Pissfree. Sadly, another boss not reskinned. Although, to be fair, I don't really know what they could do for this guy. Perhaps we will just have to wait and see. This was just the standard Godfrey fight. Jump and strafe his attacks and try to get your damage in. This would be my first time using the Church Cane and I was very pleasantly surprised. The damage was really good for being +5 and the swings are very quick for being a heavy thrusting sword. Even without the bleed you get as Godfrey can't be bled, this fight was going by very quickly. I had a few hiccups, but who doesn't? The speed of this weapon allowed me to constantly apply pressure, which eventually led to a stagger near the end of the fight to finish him off. Things are looking very good for the Church Cane. Following Godfrey is Nadar once more. My idea was to use Wild Strikes and the Shackle to try and beat him faster than ever before. With no access to buffs, I do not think it was doable. I did find some magic grease, which in this game are the tentacle things in Bloodborne, so I did use some of those. The first attempt was going very well. Entering the arena, I threw down the Shackle and instantly started swinging. Wild Strikes is a wonderful Ash of War that was doing extra today. Paired with the magic grease and bleed, I was able to drain his health bar in seconds. This would mean I would get a very quick phase 2. Entering phase 2 with about a third of his health, it should have been an easy first try. That is, unless you are me. See, I'm not very good at Morgott. I always found his second phase to be troublesome and his speed really raises the bar. He becomes far more aggressive and with new blood attacks and a deadly grab that can almost one-shot you, I would have to play very well. Things were looking great, however, there was one thing I did not account for. You see, explosive nut puddles begin to appear on the ground and they hurt. So when you are low HP and not paying attention, well, no! An unfortunate way to end a good run, but we don't quit. My second try was almost perfection. Entering the arena and after running a mile, I dropped my Shackle and started blasting. Once again, getting him to phase 2 immediately after standing up, only this time I didn't get hit by the explosion. This allowed me to do even more damage and it resulted in starting his phase 2 with less than a quarter of his HP left. He then decided to wind up for an insanely long charge attack that you can just walk behind and continue to damage. The RNG didn't stop there and he did the sword rain attack once more where I just swung until he died. Literal perfection minus the one hit I took near the middle of the fight.
Thy part in this
Okay.
shall not be forgiven.
Where you at, boy? Yeah. Get him.
Talking to Mother, I was told to go north and given the rolled medallion to do so. By this point in the run, my weapon choices are still vast, however I couldn't really make a decision, so I bought a bunch to level up and see what I found enjoyable. Before heading to the mountaintops, it was time to pursue the Lord of Blasphemy. Running through Volcano Manor, past a couple geriatrics and a few snakes, I wound up in a church and got ambushed by a Godskin noble. I decided upon the church axe for this fight and boy was it nice. Absolute power behind each swing meant for a quick stagger. I made the mistake of not taking the riposte and then got unlucky RNG as Fatty decided to do the roll attack. This stalled the fight on for a bit, but after one more sleep pot it was good as done. God bless strength weapons. A little bit later down the path behind the noble, you can find a warp that takes you to the Rykard arena. Okay, listen, I know that the Serpent Hunter is not a Bloodborne weapon. This is my run and I do not count Rykard as a real boss, so therefore, I don't care. Thank you, have a good day. If it makes you feel any better, the Ash of War doesn't work, so that means I couldn't just cheese my way through this fight. The Rykard redesign is one for the ages. They nailed it out of the park with this one. Still keeps the gnarly look from the base game, but also adds in a lot of elements from Bloodborne. The snake's face is replaced with a mouth of Ludwig, filled with eyes. Most of the body is still the same, but Rykard already fits the grotesque and horror aesthetic very well, in my opinion. Every fight in this first phase is the exact same, so as to not bore you, I will simply show the second phase.
Look at him. What'd that mouth do?
The average experience without Great Serpent Hunt consists of a lot of running once Rykard starts spewing skulls everywhere.
No, 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 I can't see, I can't see. Oh. Dude, what are you supposed to do?
Even without having the Ash of War available, Rykard gets staggered decently quickly, so as long as I keep attacking, I would be able to do well. On my final attempt, I got very lucky as he chose to never use Rancor but instead used more melee attacks. This made it very nice as I could actually see what was happening. Without much thought, only spam, the reviled Malagma went down.
Yes! Let's go! Oh my goodness. I wish I could use another weapon. But the only way I know how to fight this guy is with this weapon. And I feel like it's the only thing that's actually good.
With Riker defeated, it was time to begin my journey into Endgame. Taking the road medallion into the mountaintops, I rode past everything, only stopping to grab the Somberstone bell bearing and a defiled tear at the First Church of America. This gave me the Somberstone to upgrade my Church Axe to +6. I felt it only right to commit to using the Church Axe on the Fire Giant, as I like colossal weapons. Colossal weapons in this fight do crazy poise damage, which helps with how big this dude is. The axe did not disappoint, the damage was solid and felt really good. Sticking to his ankle like glue and doing my best rat dog impression, I got through his first phase relatively quickly, albeit a lot of rolling around like he has a really bad itch on his back that he can't scratch. Entering his second phase, I got a stagger right out the gate, but after that, this fight had me on my toes. I got pretty bad RNG and was met with fireballs and breath attacks out the wazoo. Occasionally, he would be generous enough to slam his hands down into the ground, which gave me a good window to get some damage in. Beyond the running and stalling, this fight is honestly pretty easy. It really is just a battle of attrition. In total, this fight took me a little over 5 minutes, and with the damage I was dealing, it felt like an eternity. Finally, Fire Giant's flame smoldered out and the Forge of Ruin was open.
Come on. One more hit. There we go. Alright. Not bad. I didn't get a single bleed though. That's crazy.
After Fire Giant, I had to change my weapon once more. I decided upon using the Bone Wheel as it just looks cool. I really have no other reason. Returning to the Forge, it was time to help Melina commit arson at the cost of her life.
I guess maybe... Nope. I'm gonna fall. Please. What the
Man, they done took my wife. Can't have shit in the lands between. Arriving in O-Block, I skeet and skirt past all the enemies and make it to the Godskin duo fight. This fight sucks. I have only ever done it with Starfists and Sleep Pots. This was the run I would have to actually get good. Except not really. For starters, the Bone Wheel was a bit underwhelming. I'm sure it would be good for one single boss, but when there are two, things get a bit tricky. I also attempted to parry the big one. I have never parried Fatty, so that was a learning experience. Even if I got the parry off, I would still have to deal with Skinny just lobbing fireballs at me until I would die. I wouldn't wish this fight on my worst enemy. It was safe to say that the Bone Wheel was not a very powerful weapon to use at this moment. I decided to return back to the Giant Axe as I had once used it previously on the Noble in Volcano Manor. This made it far more manageable as the damage was great and I could at least stagger them consistently. With no Sleep Pots, this was a fight for the ages. I went through half my heals before I could get one of them down. With some good spacing, I finally got the Fatty a bit away from Skinny and made it a 1v1. In a 1v1, the fight becomes far more manageable, and after transitioning to phase 2, the Apostle went down as well. From then, I would just have to wait for the respawn. Now that the spawns are staggered, this fight is super straightforward. I got a quick stagger on Fatty and killed him before the other could spawn in. Finally, in the home stretch, things were looking up and the Godskin duo fell. I will never like this fight, and this time it was honestly pretty difficult to try and deal with the both of them.
Holy shit. Pot, get off of me! Pot! Let's go! Yes! Oh! Thank you. No Sleep Pots needed. Just big weapon. Big weapon wins games. Forgot about that part.
Farumazula was far from over. Before being able to fight Malekith, I would have to get through Birdland. Or would I? I have gone through the trial and error of learning the bird skip. First, you must fall down this ledge that takes you to the bottom of an elevator. Taking it up, you arrive at another ledge where I willfully murder an unsuspecting werewolf. Now for the hard part. I decide to remove my weapons and then take the fall onto a ledge that is probably not supposed to be solid. With a few jumps that are surprisingly difficult, you finally make it.
First try, baby! Let's go!
This leads you directly to the bridge just before Malekith, where I get ready to fight the goodest boy. Oh Malekith, this fight had me reeling. Now was my time to use the Bone Wheel, and I don't know how I feel about it. In its trick form, whenever you attack, you spin the wheel and it causes bleed to build up on yourself. This applies to the enemy as well, however if you continue to attack in quick succession, you will eventually lose health. Also, the attack isn't one hit and you get the damage, but rather many hits that lead to the final amount. So if you only get like 1 or 2 spins and he jumps away, you're hitting for about 60 damage per tick. This definitely made it a bit more situational, as each attack was only doing about 300 damage anyways, so you really wanted the full combo. In its default form, the Bone Wheel behaves like any weapon where all the damage is dealt up front, however there is no bleed in that state. I decided to play around with both forms, but ultimately found the trick weapon to be more fun even with a little downside. For the most part, the fight is very simple, as it is most times. I was consistently getting to the second phase, but that is where everything went downhill. Even with all the stars aligned and Malekith so close to dying, I would manage to mess it up. I really need to work on closing out my fights, man.
No. Oh my god!
This fight definitely threw me for a loop. I have become more comfortable with Malekith, but he can still pack a punch and really make me struggle. Even though the bone wheel was a bit annoying at times, it was still a really fun weapon to use. Probably one of the more unique ones available to me. I mean, who doesn't like beating people with a wheel? Out here feeling like Alfred, leave it to Bloodborne to create a weapon out of something used for moving things around. The ultimate part of this weapon, however, was the Ash of War. You quite literally hop into the wheel and start spinning around like a mad lad. This was the perfect choice against Malekith, as whenever you get a stagger, he often takes time to get up, and this gives you plenty of time to just spin to win. Genuinely one of the goofiest ways to attack something in this game. Funny enough, the damage was actually pretty good, and with the bleed, it made it even better. That's it. The bone wheel is the best weapon in the mod. I've changed my mind.
Yes! Let's go! Finally! Oh my goodness! Wow! Dude, I was struggling against him for a second there. Oh, that was a good run though. Also, this thing is like, it's weird. I like it, but it's also kind of bad. I just don't think I was using it right, to be honest. But it is pretty fun.
Nearing the final stretch, I got ready to fight Sir Gideon off near the All Yapping. I decided to use a big ass ball, cause free will I guess. Going in, I knew this would be a good choice, but I didn't think it would be this good. Not even giving Gideon a chance to get out of the way, I just kept heavy attacking until he eventually went down. I really don't think that last hit should have connected, but I'll take it, I guess.
Okay, there we go. That's an easy way to kill him. Big ball. Who needs iron balls when you have big ball?
Continuing the path, this was the weapon I chose to fight Godfrey with. In hindsight, I could have probably done with another one, as this was maybe a bit too good, but I can't change it now. Godfrey was a great fight, as it is every time. I will say the ball was a bit slow to get full charged heavies off, however, because jump attacks are also very good, it more than made up for it. Thankfully, I actually leveled Vigor on this run, so I could trade a few hits. There really isn't much to say about this fight. Ball was so big, it would stagger him very consistently. Before I knew it, this fight was just over and the final boss was available.
When in doubt, just use a big heavy weapon. It just makes the game way too easy. Yeah, my strength does befit a crown, bro. Check out this ball. Bonk.
It wasn't time for the final boss just yet, I had some cleaning up to do. Starting with Ronnie's quest, I went to Caria Manor where I fought a ghost horse. I don't really think fight was the right word, but oh well. Behind Loretta, you can find Ronnie. She told me to head into the hole in the ground in Limgrid. Entering Nokron, I got into a fight with myself who just so happened to not have any armor or weapons. It appears I proved no match for the Art of the Wheel and Mimic Tear goes down.
That was the best. Roly-poly.
In Nokron, I find the Fingerslayer blade to progress Ronnie's story. While I'm here, I also decide to light some braziers found around the area, which allows me to commune with the body of a dead deer. I get transported into a fight with Bambi's mother. This fight isn't hard at all, but rather tedious. I decided to use the whirligig saw, which was pretty fun to use, but the deer just kinda jumps around and gets annoying to hit. The damage was alright whenever I could actually hit the boss. It is easier to not lock on so that you can hit the legs, but my goodness, even that was hit or miss. I was very over-leveled for this area, to be honest, as I had forgotten about this deer for the longest time as it is so out of the way. This made the damage taken not too bad. At about half HP, the deer can suck in all of the souls of the animals around the arena and heal itself nearly back to full HP. This is the worst mechanic of the fight, however normally you can avoid it altogether. I wasn't able to do enough damage to prevent it, and I thought once was okay, but instead it did it twice.
Another heal? Oh my god.
Finally, after over a full health bar, I was able to put the deer down and mark another remembrance down.
Roly-poly. What? Come here. Just die. No? Okay. There we go. Alright.
Returning to Ronnie once more, I am then given the Carian inverted statue. Heading to the Carian study hall, I defy all laws of gravity and science and turn the building upside down. This allows me to make it to the Divine Tower of Liurnia where I acquire the Curse Mark of Death for a later boss. Now, I don't know if I need this for Ronnie's quest, but it ends up working out. Once more at Ronnie's Rise, she is no longer there, but instead I am pointed to another tower. Here at Renna's Rise, I can find a warp that takes me to Ainsel River. At the base of the river, I find a little tiny doll and speak to it.
Oh, a dogged fellow, aren't we? Or is it merely thy habit to talk to dolls?
You guys don't understand our relationship. She's real to me. Ronnie-chan tells me to take out her baka found deep in the river. Making it to the baleful shadow, I use my big ball, not plural, to dunk on him. Behind the shadow is the best place in the game, the Lake of Rot. Before traversing this hellscape, I stopped back at the academy to grab a wedding ring. Because Miyazaki didn't think we suffered enough with poison swamps, he decided to create something about 100 times worse. Rot does more damage and builds up faster, and I don't think there is any way to cross this place without getting inflicted. Luckily, the run isn't that long, and I make it to the other side in one shot. Taking a coffin ride down a Rotfall, it's time to fight the cosmic anal beads. Although I guess this mod makes Estelle look a bit more like a red dragonfly. Awesome design choice if you ask me. Now was the time I decided to whip out the most popular Bloodborne weapon ever, the Saw Cleaver. I hate to disappoint, but it's not really that good. In Bloodborne, the weapon carries playthroughs, literally undefeated in terms of speed and damage and awesomeness. In Graceborne, it was honestly a bit underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, the damage was alright, and I was still hitting attacks for about 400 light, but considering I decided to fight Estelle way over leveled because I got distracted, I honestly expected more. The Estelle fight itself was pretty good. I did make a couple mistakes timing my dodges correctly, but I prevailed. I will say it was a bit nice fighting the most Bloodborne space boss in the game with a mod that combines the two games. I really do only wish that the Saw Cleaver was a bit better. For starters, it has D tier scaling even at +8, which is crazy considering every other weapon has like B and A scaling at this level. Beyond that, it also doesn't really have any bleed, which I mean isn't really a big deal, although you would expect it from a Saw type weapon. As for the fight itself, Estelle kinda just did Estelle things. It was a bit tricky to consistently hit the head, so I would try to also keep damage up by attacking the limbs. This helped, but I believe it did attribute to the low damage. After Estelle decided to do the large meteor attack, I was completely underneath him, so I literally didn't have to worry about getting hit, which was nice. I did get smacked by his wide swipes a few times though. Overall, this fight was a lot more involved than the last time I did it, and I do believe it is because of the scaling being so poor, which is a bit unlucky.
There we go. Alright. Goodness. I don't know if they just like didn't do a good job on the Saw Cleaver, because like at +8, this thing has D tier strength scaling. At +8, it has D tier scaling.
Behind Estelle, I take an elevator up to the Moonlight Altar where I find Ronnie. Now it is time to pop the question, and I get down on one knee and slide a ring on her finger. This effectively completes the quest, and now I have access to her ending, allowing me to spend 1,000 years in eternal darkness. Sometimes you gotta sacrifice daylight to make your girl happy, you know? Having defeated yet another Remembrance boss, I swapped out my weapon to another original choice, the Blades of Cruelty. Similar to the gauntlets, these are also claw weapons that attack very quickly and frankly look badass.
Kind of fit. Why is bro stanced up like that?
After respecking to fit the build and getting them upgraded, I headed back underground as it was time for maybe one of the worst fights in the game, the Valiant Gargoyles. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Why can't Elden Ring make proper gang fights? This is the same studio who made Ornstein and Smo, and now we got this. I know that the second one comes in at like half HP, but still, if they choose to both be aggressive, good luck, because sometimes it's chaotic. Oh, and the poison? Hello? Why does it do so much damage? I don't know, I'm just coping. The fight really isn't that hard, it's just annoying. After their defeat, there is another coffin that you can hop into, only this one takes you up instead of down. I don't know, I ain't questioning it. In the deep root depths, I find Godwin all mangled and fishified, with Fia sitting below him. Yeah, I didn't forget about Fia, I just never bothered to talk to her. Before I could talk to her, I would have to go through her sims. This fight is smooth sailing until the final 3. Then what I said about gang fights applies yet again, only this time it's with NPCs who have infinite stamina and input reads. Also, the armor I was wearing had about 10 poise, so basically I would get staggered out of every single attack. I did have to swap to something a bit more protective to at least hit that 51 poise threshold. This was a good opportunity to use the gun parries, and with some kiting, I would do a ton of damage to each of the individual NPCs, making it a bit more manageable. Once all the chumps were dead, I could talk to Fia. Achieving a goal every man wants, I get held by a woman. I don't care that she sleeps with dead people, this means something to me, man. After reloading the area, I can then be transported into probably one of the coolest looking fights, Lich Dragon Fortisex. The hate for this fight is unwarranted. I mean, how cool is a dead zombie ancient dragon? The color scheme, the red lightning, my goodness, I just love it. The fight itself is also not half bad. They did pull a fast one by making the fight take place in water, which does add a layer of challenge to the large lightning attacks, but you can't tell me it just makes the fight that much cooler. Every few seconds, a lightning charge will appear on you that will explode if you don't run away from it. An easy way to deal with it is to constantly be running around as to not be in the area when it goes off. Beyond that, most attacks just need to be dodged and then dodged once more for the follow-up lightning. He does have Deathblade in the area, but I have never once actually been killed by it, as the build-up really isn't that bad. Most of this fight is treated by just attacking his feet and staying beneath him, but there are a few moments where you can get damage on the head. I usually tend to just run around and never lock on, so to make this fight easier. I don't know, I don't care what anyone says, this fight is honestly one of my favorites. Between the design and the arena and the lore, just everything about it is absolutely beautiful. It definitely does hurt if you do get hit, but nothing unmanageable. I also found that there are some patches of dryland you can try and stand on where the lightning does not affect you anywhere near as much, although don't rely on it because he does move around quite a bit. I don't know what the level is for this area. I did kill him pretty quickly, so I might have been over leveled. Regardless, Fortisax goes down in one smooth attempt.
Let's go! First try.
Reloading the area, I find Fia once more. Is that the mending rune of the Death Prince in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Oh. With only a few remembrances left to fight, I returned underground to face off against Mogwin! One of the many weapons that caught my eye was the farmer's plow. I don't know who came up with the idea to use a tool as a weapon, but they need a raise. This thing was honestly so fun. I believe it shares the same moveset as the Bloodhound's Fang, and the great curved swords are really good. It also just kinda looks goofy. Imagine being a demigod who worships a great one and losing your one to a dude with a farming tool. Couldn't be me. Okay, that doesn't count. Moog has always been a mixed bag for me. Like Morgott, many of his attacks are a bit delayed due to the heavy swings he does with his spear. Those throw me off so much, and I often overestimate when I need to dodge. I have fought him many times before, and even having done so with no vigor, however those times I used the shackle. This time around I chose not to, so I would have to fight through both his first phase and his second phase relatively cleanly. Luckily the plow was doing a pretty nice amount of damage. Each swing felt heavy and really powerful, so staggers were frequent. His first phase is very simple and straightforward. It isn't until his second phase where I really get thrown for a loop. Now that his spear is fully covered in blood flame and each attack leaves a pool of fire behind, your positioning matters so much more. That is something I frequently get caught up by and often see myself taking a ton of extra damage to the fire left on the ground. I found that just running away and waiting for the ground to clear is really helpful when dealing with it. Many of his attacks can be strafed, and he does leave plenty of openings for charged heavy attacks, which makes daggers really valuable. The plow does have Bloodhound's Finesse, and it was also really good. If this thing is the same as Bloodhound's Fang, I couldn't imagine how good that weapon is. I know its reputation is tainted due to how strong it is, but man, not the smoothest fight for me, but I was able to get the job done in relatively low attempts, which was nice. The 400,000 runes he gave me were also pretty nice for getting some more stat points.
Alright. There we go. Nice.
I can see it. As clear as day.
Yeah.
The coming of
Identity. Mogwin. Okay. Well, not bad.
At this point in the run, I was just speedrunning bosses. Returning to Farum Azula, I found a nice little hole to lay in and took a nap. This is one of those naps where you wake up and don't know what time it is or even what day. Apparently I slept so long I froze time itself and woke up with the dragon looking at me. Placidusax is so out of the way, this is probably my 4th time fighting him. Honestly, he is really cool. Up there with Bale in terms of cinematics, and considering now we know that Bale and Placidusax fought each other, resulting in the sustained injuries they both have, it makes it that much cooler. The weapon I landed on was the Black Cross. I don't really know what you would call this thing. I guess a hammer of some sorts, but it was really good. Now, I don't know exactly how weapon scaling works, but I was around level 110 at this point with a +9 weapon with B tier scaling, and my heavies were doing 800 damage. Definitely doable and nothing to fret about. However, I definitely do think that the base game Elden Ring weapons would be doing far more at this point. I don't know, I could be wrong and just used to having one stat overly leveled. Regardless, this fight was not too bad, and there are some tricks I have learned that make it pretty easy to understand. Whenever he enters phase 2, he flies away and then comes crashing down. He will always appear behind you, making it easy to track his movements. I found that sitting near his tail is the best for getting consistent hits in and helps with avoiding many of his fire attacks if you aren't too close. I also never really locked on except for when he teleports so as to not get hit with bad camera placement. For the most part, this fight isn't so much hard as it is just long. He has a ton of health, so you gotta spend a bit of time fighting him. I did get hit a few times where I was worried I would die, but I played relatively safely. Things don't get crazy until he flies away once more, only this time when he lands he does a big laser attack that will ruin your life. Once again, staying near a wall, when he lands he will actually be facing the wall, thus completely countering the attack. This gives you plenty of damage and was ultimately what helped me finish the fight so smoothly. Only 2 bosses left to go.
Come on. This should be it. Please. Let's go! Oh, this fight is such a drag. This fight is so long. Finally, goodness. It's fun. It's really cool. I don't know who I like more, Bale or Placidusax. They're both really awesome. Now it was time to face my demons and fight Melania. Before I could head to the Halleck Tree, I would need to acquire the 2 halves of the medallion. One half is located in Castle Sol, but before I could get to it, I would need to beat Commander Nile. As a man of class, I do the only thing imaginable and crutch on Impaling Thrust. It really wasn't too bad, and I beat him easily, allowing me to grab the medallion. Finally returning to Liurnia, I find a frail old man in a pot. Instead of killing him like I normally do, I let him talk. He gives me the other half of the medallion as a thanks for sparing his life. See? Violence is never the answer. Using the medallion at the road lift, I make it to the consecrated snowfield. In this playthrough with the reshade mod and nighttime, I couldn't see anything.
Oh God, they try to drown me in this hole. I cannot see.
In Ordina, I open a jail where I must light 4 braziers located around the town. Once I light all these guys up, I can then take the warp into the Haligtree. One last boss I must fight before Malenia is Loretta. This version of Loretta is a bit harder and has far more attacks to watch out for. Loretta jumps around a whole bunch and uses range spells to really kite me around. Staying close to her helps a lot, and I beat her too.
One more hit, let's go. Nice.
Now we have finally arrived to Malenia. I stop and grab the Dragon Crest Greatshield for even more defense because we all know I need it.
Yo. Dude, she looks awesome. Oh my god, look at her. No, this is a Malenia I can get behind. This is so far, coolest looking boss. Okay, why is her arm so big though? Like, am I tripping? Or is that thing huge?
I am Malenia, Blade of Mikola, and I have never known defeat.
Until now. Alright. Oh, hello. Understandable. My fault. Oh,
I am Malenia, Blade.
we're already dead?
I think she takes the cake for best looking boss in the game. They absolutely cooked with this redesign. The look of her face being all messed up and the helmet being used to cover it, just beautiful. Easily my favorite looking boss. After having fought Malenia and having to be damn near perfect, this was a walk in the park. I already had an understanding of the fight, and using a similar weapon also really helped. Crazy how much having an actual health bar really changes the fight. Even if you get hit and heal her up a little bit, you can at least live to fight another day. The spear I used reminded me a lot of the Swordlance, so it was very fun. I did have to dodge waterfowl as I did not have frostbite, so that was a bit scary. If she chose to use it right in front of me, I could attempt to live, but not every time was successful. After having previously spent like 3 days on this fight, I was very relieved to only have spent like 20 minutes. My build wasn't anything crazy. I did use Dragon Crest Shield as well as Ritual Sword Talisman to increase my damage. This weapon also would stagger many of her attacks, so unless I hit her at the wrong time where she had hyper armor, I often would be able to stop her from doing anything crazy. Her first phase was nearly flawless, except for one hit right before transitioning, and I think I might have gotten one of the luckiest second phases of all time. Not once did she do waterfowl or the clone move. She exclusively used melee and gave me so many openings. Although she becomes far more aggressive in this phase, if you get really good RNG, it actually feels much easier. I definitely have to give credit to the gods for giving me such a good fight.
Oh my god! Let's go!
Extraordinary.
That was insane!
The mark.
That was a crazy run, dude! Oh my god, I'm gonna keep it a bean, brother! Impaling thrust is the only way I know how to do this fight! Whoop. Oh my god, we did it, dude! Oh, I wasn't talking at all, but like I was stressing, man. I got so lucky. No waterfowl in second phase, no clones. That was insane. That was the best possible run I could have had. Oh my god. Yes! I wasn't here for 3 hours, I was here for 10 minutes!
Here we go, ready to face off against the final bosses of the run.
Yo. Whoa, America looks so cool. Ooh, okay.
Radagon and Elden Beast, not very hard bosses, and I honestly had nothing to worry about going into this.
No! Oh my god, I forgot to hit the dodge button. Oh my god.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but my goodness, I had an incident. This fight took me longer than any of the other fights I had in the run. It wasn't even Elden Beast. I only fought Elden Beast 3 times, and one of those times I ended up beating it. Except that one time I should have beaten it, but I forgot to press the circle button. It was Radagon who really had my number. It's because I am a Starfish Crutch. Now that I do not have a weapon that does not do anywhere near as much damage, I would actually have to fight. The amygdalin arm was pretty cool. In its trick form, it was basically just a freaky tentacle, perfect for this game. It also did strike damage, which Radagon was weak to, so I was already at an advantage. I don't know, it must have just been one of those moments because I simply couldn't get it down. The fight is very telegraphed, and I thought I knew it relatively well, but I guess not. For the most part, the beginning of the fight was always very good. The longer the fight went on and the more moves he would introduce, I honestly had never seen before, the worse it got for me. Eventually, I got good enough to make it to second phase. Elden Beast was not really that bad. Considering I only had to fight him a few times, it was actually pretty crazy that I beat him so fast. Trying my best to get heavy attacks where I could, I was able to get 2 staggers, which made the fight far more safer. The second stagger I got knocked him out of Elden Stars, which was a blessing in disguise. I do think his design was amazing. Being called the Elden Great One and having resemblances of teeth and tentacles and all the things that make up a Bloodborne Great One was really cool. I can safely say that every redesign that was done tastefully and very well. Not really much else to say about Elden Beast. He just runs away and then you run across the arena to hit him again and hope he doesn't do it again. All in all, a fight of all time. Radagon, on the other hand, is fantastic when you aren't having an incident.
Let's go! Finally, man. Dude, Elden Beast took me 3 tries. Radagon took me way too many. I was genuinely struggling on Radagon. Which is really sad, to be honest, because it really wasn't that hard. Not many of you guys are probably going to see this, but as I was editing this video, we happened to surpass 10,000 subscribers. I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the support and love. I never would have thought this was possible, and you guys are proving it wrong. I couldn't have done it without the constant support, and I hope I continue to produce videos you guys will enjoy. To think just a few months ago, I uploaded my first video as something for fun, and now I have 10,000 people who willfully chose to subscribe upon seeing any one of my videos. It is just so surreal. Seriously, thank you guys, and we are just getting started. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you later.